Hello and welcome to Atelier Sandrine Mogy. In this video we are going to talk about working from photographs, but I really avoid working from photographs, and today I'm going to give you 10 reasons why I do. So this is at the same time a project on Patreon as well. On Patreon it's going to be a slightly different form. It's going to be in a form of a challenge, and then next week I will do another video giving tips on how to counteract the things that I am going to talk about today. But hopefully you will be able to work out some things. If you're aware of the problem, it's a lot easier to avoid these pitfalls. Number one, and that's a really big one, is working from photographs triggers a different part of the brain compared to when you work from the real subject. When you work from the real subject, you have a subject that is three-dimensional and you have a puzzle to solve. You have to turn this three-dimensional object into a two-dimensional painting while making this painting look three-dimensional. That means that you need to translate the information, you need to interpret the information and solve that puzzle. Be creative. When you copy a photo, you don't have to do any of this. Your photo is two-dimensional, your subject becomes two-dimensional, and your painting is two-dimensional. So all you do is copying. The creative part of your brain is not triggered in the same way, and your problem solving is not triggered in the same way. You don't have to translate information, you don't have to interpret this information, and you don't have to process it in the same way. So the painting will not be as creative if you work from a photo as it would be if you work from the real subject, and your brain had to be triggered in all these areas of problem solving, translation, interpretation, and creativity. The second reason is the colors are never right. Whether you use a proper good camera, or even worse, if you use your phone, the camera is making decisions about light and color and tone and so many things that you're not really controlling. And it's really, really difficult to get the right color on your picture. It probably happens all the time, but we don't really notice it that much. The third issue is the information contained in the photos is a trap. It's really hard to get away from the photo and to feel free to do so, because you can't argue with a photo. The photo has taken a real thing and it's captured it. And when you look at the photo, it's hard to feel free to change things because you're taking the photo at face value. The photo took a photo of the reality. You can't argue with that. When you have the real subject in front of you, you are a lot freer to be creative with it. You're not in that trap of having to follow everything exactly as it is. Another problem that you might have is all the noise in the photo. So when you take a subject to your studio, you can isolate it and just focus on painting that subject. When you take a photo in the garden or in the wild, in the forest, wherever, there's a lot of noise around it. All that noise that makes it harder to isolate that subject. When you have the subject in front of you, the real thing, you can position it in a different way. On a photo, you can't do that. You can't move anything. So there's all that noise around it, and it's really hard to isolate the subject that you want to paint. Number 5 is the light source. I know I always go on with the light source when I do tutorials, and the reason is because you want your tone to be consistent. The only way to have that is to have a consistent light source. But if you're taking photos outside, you can't control the light source, you can't move the sun. So you can't manipulate the light source in a way that will give you the information that you need and the position that you need to make the most of it for your painting. Which takes us to number 6, which is your tone. Your tonal variations are not necessarily going to be as good or as subtle as they would be if you could manipulate your light source. So you might have too much contrast, not enough contrast. You might have transitions from light to dark that are too abrupt, and your tone might not be consistent throughout the painting, especially if you are working from several photographs taken from different angles. So the tone is a problem as well. Which takes us to number 7, is that partly because of this, some detail is missing. So some details might be missing because you don't have good enough resolution, or because the light is not good enough to show everything in a photo, but details are probably missing more in the dark areas. Where the tone is the darkest, the camera again will make decisions and will just show this area as a dark area, and it's going to completely obliterate all the details. When you have the subject in front of you, you have the information there if you need it. On a photo, you can't check the details because once the photo is taken, you no longer have access to the real subject. It's really, really hard to extrapolate from a photo if something's missing. Number 8 is that it's not only the details that are missing, it's the information. When you have your subject in front of you, you can get a lot more information from it. Sometimes the color at the back of a petal will help you choose the colors that you need to mix the colors for the front of the petal, for example. You can just turn it over and see, oh, what's going on at the back? Does that tell me anything about what I should do at the front? And then there's the obvious things. Touching a leaf, for example. Is it downy? Is it hairy? Is it completely flat, smooth? Is it bumpy? Touching it will tell you a lot about that. Looking at a photo probably won't. And the less obvious one is listening to your subject. For example, I have that shallot here. This would just be a photo of a shallot that you would see. What do you know about the texture apart from it's slightly shiny? Now listen to this. Can you hear this? That tells you a lot about the texture of the shallot just by rustling it and listening to it. That's all I need to know about the texture. That rustling sound tells me it's dry, tells me it's thin, tells me it's brittle. And yes, it's a bit shiny, but there's so much more to it that you would completely miss out if that was a photo. Sometimes colors are not flat. If you tilt a subject in a different way, you will see other colors appear, variation in the colors that you can then put in your painting and make it a lot more beautiful rather than just using a flat color. All these are the things that you're completely missing out if you're working from a photograph. Number 9 is inspiration. I really do not think that you can be as inspired by a photo as you would be by your subject being in front of you. The difference is huge. When you paint a velvety rose and you can touch those petals, when you can smell it, when the smell of sweet peas, the perfume just fills your studio, compared to a cold, smelling of nothing, smooth photo, there is so much more to a subject than just looking at its shape and color and light variations. Other dimensions that you completely miss on a photo. And the conclusion of that is if you paint without the feeling that you are feeling at the time that you are inspired by your subject, the painting will be flat, it will be lifeless, ultimately it will be uninspired. You need to grab that inspiration and put it in there. I actually wrote the script of this video this morning while sitting in the garden. And it was sunny and warm, there was a bit of a breeze, and I could see the hydrangeas still deciding, are we going to go for pink or are we going to go for blue this year? They still haven't decided. I think they're just going to go in the middle and go magenta. If you capture that atmosphere, then you can take some of that inspiration with you to get that first feeling of falling in love with a subject. Because this is what happens, you just go for a walk or you see something like this and you fall in love and you think, oh, I have to paint this, I really, really want to paint this. But you can't at the time. So you take the photos, you take them home. By the time you're home, you think, I can't really remember what I felt when I saw this. The inspiration has just fizzled out. Loads of things have happened in between. And when I was filming, a giant dragonfly just landed on my finger. Well, I'm absolutely sure that this video would be a lot less inspired if I had written the script in my studio this morning instead of sitting out there and listening to the birds and watching all of this and having this close encounter with a terrifying creature. It was massive. I don't know how I did not drop that phone. Fortunately, I just realized really quickly that it was probably not the best place to land and just went away again. Which takes us to number 10. The last reason why you shouldn't paint from a photograph is it shows. If you go through a botanical work exhibition, you can tell the paintings that have been done from the photographs and the paintings that have been done from the real subject. You can tell. The ones that are done from the photographs are less inspired, they are flatter, they are less creative, they are not as full of life. They are copies of something rather than a thing on their own. And that makes a huge difference. However, it depends what you're trying to achieve with your art as well. If your style is being highly photographic, then perhaps working from a photo is not that much of a problem for you because you want your paintings to look like a photograph. Personally, I don't want my paintings to look like a photograph. I want my paintings to look like a painting. I want the watercolor to show. And I want the subject and what I feel for the subject to be a big part of it. And I can't do that as well if I'm working from a photograph. Now, there are some times where you cannot avoid working from a photograph. There's just no other way. And this is why I'm doing this right now, is because our next project on Patreon is painting from photographs that I took in France of some water lilies. We're going to paint some water lilies next. And I don't have water lilies in my garden. I don't know anyone who has water lilies in their garden. It's not like you can really cut a water lily and take it away. So I am going to work from photographs for my water lilies. So now you've watched the video, try to think of all these pitfalls, try to think of all these issues, and try to think on how to overcome them when you really have to work from a photo. Now, next week on Patreon, I will do a follow-up video where I will answer all these issues and I will tell you how I get over it. It's still not as good, but there are things you can do to help. So I hope this video was useful into making you think about these things and try to navigate the problems with working from photos. But at the end of it, if you can work from the real thing, there is no comparison. You should really work with the subject in front of you to have an inspired painting, beautiful, full of life, with consistent tone, gorgeous colors, and the memory of a dragonfly somewhere in there. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time in another video. Happy painting. Bye.